Hello, students. I hope you are doing great. Welcome back to the live streaming of the daily news analysis. And today we will be understanding the important news articles of 3rd August 2022. So, this is your educator Prithviraj Singh, and we stream live on daily basis on our YouTube channel mentioned below. You can log in yourself, subscribe, and do press the like button and put any questions which you feel so. We'll be more than happy to answer all your queries. Now, a very important event happened. The third most powerful person of America, the Speaker of the House of Representatives. We know, students, that American Parliament, it is called as Congress, is a bicameral house. That means there are two houses to make laws. The lower house is called as House of Representatives, and the upper house is called as the Senate. So the upper house is called as Senate. Now, the Speaker of the lower house or House of Representatives is Nancy Pelosi, the third powerful person in hierarchy in America. Now, she has done the maiden visit to Taiwan or the contested territory of Taiwan, and in this sense, she has become, one of the second dignitary after, way back 30 years back, the Speaker of the House of Representatives went to Taiwan. So in this sense, it is a very crucial visit, and we'll understand a brief about Taiwan and why it is important for America. Uh, China has threatened and has warned that if any US dignitary of such a scale would visit Taiwan, it would lead to military aggressions. It would lead to escalation, and it may also spiral up into a big war, which the world doesn't want at this stage when you are seeing the Russian invasion of Ukraine. But even after the continued warning, the Speaker, Nancy Pelosi, decided to go to Taiwan. And the Beijing has condemned it as a political provocation and has vowed that it would do a targeted military countermeasures. Well, already Su-35 fighters are, are being placed across the median of Taiwan Strait, and it has placed severe restrictions on several Taiwanese exporters. Right, and it has also announced, China has also announced live fire drills. Now it will hold joint sea and air exercises in the sea and air spaces. So it has a possibility of spiraling up, where America, through the Speaker Nancy Pelosi, has clearly said that America stands for the pro-democracy movement of Taiwan, and it supports the Taiwan's vibrant democracy. Mind you, Taiwan is a democratic country. It's not a communist nation as China, and in fact, it is pro-capitalist. So America is keen on free and open Indo-Pacific, and the president of and it is and Pelosi also had talks with the president Tsai Ing-wen, the president of Taiwan. Right? Even China has accused America of going back, backing out from the one China policy, which we understand. So they said that America is following out of its one China policy commitment. Let us understand the issue. We have placed a video link below the today's video, and that video was shot at the studio on 26th May this year. Right. So I explained about the background, the Taiwan crisis, and what are the agreements between America and China related to Taiwan. A very important video and a must watch. So I request all the students and in fact advise to watch my video on Taiwan, China historical background and America China relations. Right. So it was a very informative video, and to understand the issue, which is very much required. Well, so this is the background, and in fact, America has accused Beijing of trying to change the current status quo through a combination of military pressure and moves to isolate Taiwan internationally. Right. So, so it is an avoidable crisis. Now, in the editorial section, also there was an article which says that it may trigger the fourth Taiwan Strait crisis. Now, we in the video, I talked about the three Taiwan Strait crises, and this one is the fourth one. Miss Pelosi, which is the highest ranking US official, in fact, the third highest, has visited Taiwan in 25 years, right? So it is the first time in the past 25 years the high ranking official, American official, has visited Taiwan, and the first by any House Speaker since the Newt Gingrich trip in 1997. So it's almost 25 years. After 25 years, a high-ranking dignitary American official is visiting Taiwan, and that visit also in 1997 took place in the aftermath of the third Taiwan Strait crisis. Right. So there was a third Taiwan Strait crisis, and just after that, the House Speaker, the then House Speaker of America, Newt Gingrich, made a trip to visited Taiwan in 1997. So it's being believed and been said that Nancy Pelosi's visit to Taiwan may trigger the fourth Taiwan Strait crisis. Well, Beijing is criticizing America of violating one China policy, which we'll understand in the coming few minutes, and it in fact has warned uh, Joe Biden, American president, that those who play with fire will perish by it. So it's a clear warning by China. Whereas White House officials are sidelining from the Pelosi visit, they are saying that legislature is a different branch of government. It is, because it is there is a strict separation of powers in America, and there is no relation, direct relation between legislature and executive, because executive is not the member of American legislature or American parliament, which is called as Congress. So they say that the visit is majorly driven, by Pelosi, who has been sharply critical of China's policy in Tibet, Xinjiang, uh, and the Hong Kong. So in this sense, this issue is very, very important, and I strongly expect a question on this. So this was a video on 26th May 2022. Your educator Prisura Singh, and we shot it in the studio. You can always see this, and you will find the link at the below. Now, in the video, I explained that how China, was being ruled by Qing dynasty, right? So it was Qing dynasty ruling China from 1644 till 1912, and the last emperor of Qing dynasty was called as Emperor Pui. So Emperor Pui was the last ruler of Qing dynasty, which ruled China since 1644 till 1912. Now he was abdicated in the year 1912, and this resulted into the rise of Republic of China. Right? See, students, republic means where the head of the state is an elected authority. Getting my point? Where the head of the state is an elected entity or elected authority. For example, India is called as Republic of India because the president is an elected authority. But Britain is not called as Republic of Britain because the head of the state is a hereditary ruler, is a monarchy, right? So they have constitutional monarchy. It's not called as Republic of UK. In fact, even Japan is not called as Republic of Japan because they are also they practice constitutional monarchy, right? The head of the state is a monarch, correct, or a hereditary ruler. But India and China are republics because the head of the state is an elected authority. I hope it is clear. Now, after the abdication or execution of Emperor Hui in the year 1912, the Republic of China was formed. That means from now onwards, the head of the state would come through an election process, and it would represent the voice of the people. And the Republic of China continued from 1912 till 1949. And it can be rightly said that Sun Yat-sen may be called as the founding father of Republic of China. So it is still 1949 only, because today, student, China is called as PRC, or People's Republic of China. We'll understand the interpretation of PRC and how it changed itself or transformed from ROC, or Republic of China, to the PRC, right? So 1949, Sun Yat-sen, right? 1912 to 1949, the founding father of ROC, Sun Yat-sen. Very important. Moving to the next news, the next screen. Now, again taken from the video shot on 26th May. Now, in 1945, when the Second World War ended with the atomic bombing of Hiroshima and Nagasaki on the month of August, in 1945, a civil war in China broke out. People started demanding democracy, right? Democratic reforms, and it went up in 4 years, from 1945 to 1949. And this civil war, you know, because in the mainland China in those days in 1945, because we understood that till 1949 it was called as the Republic of China, right? So in those days in 1940s, the government which was ruling China was called as Kuomintang government. I repeat, the government ruling in the in 1940s in China was called as Kuomintang government, but it was infamous for the autocratic policies, and it was ruling by decree. Right now, the people's movement, pushed the Kuomintang government with the rise of the people. The civil war. It pushed the Kuomintang government from the mainland China to Taiwan. Well, students, we must understand that Taiwan has always been the part of China, right? But after the civil war, the Kuomintang government, which was ruling the mainland China, because Taiwan is an island nation. I'll just give you the geographical detail, if I can. I have, yeah. So it is. So Taiwan as a province of China, right? So Taiwan, here you can see, here is your China, and Beijing, the capital of China, and Taiwan, to the southeast of China, and towards north you have Japan and South Korea, and to the south you have Philippines. Right. So Taiwan has always been regarded as a territory of China, but its status changed in the year 1949. In the year 1949, when the civil war broke out, 45 to 49, the Kuomintang government was being forced by the people to leave the mainland China and push it to Taiwan, right? And then onwards, Taiwan was called as Republic of China. Getting my point? So Kuomintang government, which was ruling the mainland China, was being pushed or shifted to Taiwan, or it was being reduced to Taiwan. Getting my point? Because Taiwan is a very small island region, right? So the Kuomintang government was being pushed to Taiwan, and there it was called as Republic of China, right? So Taiwan was from now onwards was being referred as Republic of China. And in the mainland China, the new system developed called as PRC, or People's Republic of China. So from 1949 onwards, China is called as People's Republic of China, with the rise of the people and in the aftermath of Chinese civil war. Correct. I hope it is clear till this. So Taiwan is called as ROC, and China, mainland China, is called as PRC, People's Republic of China. Well, PRC from 1949 onwards kept on considering Taiwan as its renegade province. Now, renegade province means a residue province, right? So that means it considers it Taiwan as the part of its own, China, and it believes that it is a residual part or area region of China, right? So therefore, it always claims its right on Taiwan, and in fact believes that in the coming time in the future there may be a peaceful resolution wherein Taiwan would again be integrated with the mainland China or the PRC, right? So it hopes that Taiwan would, with a peaceful resolution, become again an integral part of PRC. Until then, it says that no country should maintain diplomatic relation with Taiwan, and if any country tries to maintain diplomatic relation with Taiwan, then China itself, would cut all the diplomatic relations with that country, right? So this is called as one China principle. Getting my point? So this is there. Now, after the formation of PRC in the mainland China, they set up their own legislature called as NPC, or National People's Congress. Right. I repeat, they had their legislature as we have Indian Parliament. Their legislature is called as NPC, National People's Congress, which was set up in the year 1949, the month of September. Right. Now, the NPC framed the first constitution of the People's Republic of China in the year 1954. Right, so it was complete. The constitution project was complete, and it came in the year 1954. The second constitution was in 1975. The third was in 1978, and the fourth one was in the year 1982. Now, this constitution of 1982 is the present constitution of People's Republic of China. Right, so China technically is called as PRC. Correct. People's Republic of China. So technically, it is called as PRC, and it is being run by the 1982 Constitution, which was passed in the month of December 1982. So these are some very important facts which has to be kept in mind by every student here, right? So China is being run by 1982 Constitution, right? And since then, Taiwan is being claimed by the PRC as a residuary province or renegade province. Now, students, Taiwan is after 1949 was called as Republic of China, and it always, it supported democracy. It had influence of capitalism, and in fact, we'll understand this in the coming slides. Now, again, from shot from the same video. Now, here you can see Tsai Ing-wen. Now, Tsai Ing-wen, as you can see here, her photograph on the screen, she is the president of the Republic of China. Now, when I say president of the Republic of China, what do you mean? Now you're in the position to understand. Republic of China doesn't mean China; it means Taiwan. Getting my point? So Tsai Ing-wen is the president of Taiwan, and this question may also appear in the examination, right? So Republic of China or Taiwan, the president is Tsai Ing-wen. So as I just said that Nancy Pelosi, the Speaker of the United States Legislature, met Tsai Ing-wen in Taiwan. Right now, since then, Taiwan had a capitalist stand, and Taiwan always believes in pro-democracy. So, and you all know that now it is a because Nancy Pelosi yesterday night she landed Taiwan, and she in fact said that we are confronted by a choice of being autocracy and democracy. You have to choose one among them, right? Autocracy and democracy. So, what is the Taiwan issue? Well, Taiwan is an island country across the Taiwan Strait, located off the coast of mainland China. Now, Taiwan Strait. Now, this word again, has many a time appeared in the news. See this. So, this chain is the group of islands, to the south of Taiwan is called as first island chain, right? And to the north is called as second island chain. Getting my point? So, and this is called as the first island chain and the Taiwan Strait. Now, the ruling, so this we have already discussed, and since then, since the formation of the PRC and the ROC, the PRC observes Taiwan as a traitor, dhokebaj, right? As a traitor province and awaits reintegration with Taiwan, if possible by peaceful means, as we already discussed. I hope you're understanding the things. I've made it as easy and as precise as possible. Now, simultaneously, the United Nations membership, back in 1949-50, continued was continued by the ROC, maintaining its permanent seat at the United Nations Security Council. So you will be surprised to learn that the ROC or the Taiwan maintained a permanent seat at the Security Council. And in fact, PRC allied itself to the Soviet, right? So the Cold War started after the Second World War. The world was divided into two camps. It became bipolar world. The Soviet, which was, going ahead with the communist uh, philosophy, ideology, and America, which was going ahead with the capitalist ideology, right? So PRC started aligning itself, tilting towards the Soviet, and ROC started tilting towards the capitalist bloc, that is America, right, in the Cold War. And this actually strained the China-Taiwan relations, right, because ROC was slipping in the hands of America. Consequently, two Taiwan Strait crises of 1950s happened, right? So there was military aggression, by China over Taiwan. They kind of, surrounded Taiwan with the aircraft, etc. So there were two Taiwan Strait crises of 1950, which happened due to this. Now, reconciliation of America with China and the subsequent events. Well, in 1970s, because of the Cold War's shifting geopolitics, and the growing influence of the Soviet, so America changed its stance. It, in fact, started moving closer to China in 1970s because of the growing influence of USSR or the Soviet. So they wanted to counter Soviet by aligning with China. Getting my point? And this was followed by the visit of the then American President Richard Nixon, very important, in the year 1972. Right. So Richard Nixon, the then American president, visited PRC in 1972, and subsequently the Republic of China, which is called as Taiwan, was displaced by PRC as the official representative of the United Nations. Getting the point? So by the Nixon's after the Nixon's visit of to PRC, the mainland China, ROC was displaced by the PRC as the official representative at the United Nations. And then the One China principle came into picture. So now we are in this in the stage is set to understand what is One China principle, and we have understood the historical background. We now uh, understand the difference between PRC and ROC. I hope it is clear. Now, what is One China principle and what is its impact? Now, China is very clear that those nations who want to have diplomatic relations with PRC have to. I mean, those countries who want to have diplomatic relations and good relations, with the mainland China, also technically called as PRC, have to recognize the PRC, but not the ROC as China, right? So, for example, if India wishes to have good relations or diplomatic relations with PRC, then it should recognize PRC and not ROC as a part of China, right? So that means they must not consider Taiwan I mean, they must not have separate relation with ROC, but they should have the relation with PRC. And if any country tries to build diplomatic relation with Taiwan, it would lead to the breaking of the relation with China, right? So it is clear, and this is called as One China principle. So simultaneously, China evolved as a multi-party democracy. Now, I've intentionally put a question mark over here because is China multi-party really a multi-party democracy? That is something to be explored because they amended the constitution and they clearly say that China is a single-party state. They in fact mentioned it there in their constitution. Right? Now, since then, the two countries became economically entangled and continuously competing. Getting a point. So, so now Taiwan and the mainland China (PRC) are competing with each other. Taiwan is pro-capitalist, and China, as is kind of a communist nation, but in the garb of communism, it do all the things. But then there is no democracy, there is no freedom. You cannot say anything against the government, any choice. Now, this is how the location of Taiwan with its capital Taipei, the South China Sea, which is again a contested territory. China claims many area of the South China Sea as its part. Well, what is the way forward? Considering China's varying patience and Taiwan's increasingly pro-independence land, a strong message to the adversary becomes essential in the backdrop of the Russo-Ukrainian conflict, right? So therefore, America, I mean, sees it as an opportunity, and also because it has to establish itself in the Indo-Pacific theater, which it already is doing so with the Quad and the IPEF or Indo-Pacific Economic Framework. So America would send a clear and a strong message to the adversary, in the backdrop of the Russo or Russian-Ukrainian conflict, it may have reached the point where strategic ambiguity may be losing its relevance to strategic clarity, right? So, because I mean, America is of the opinion that there is enough of ambiguity, right? And the strategic ambiguity must be replaced by strategic clarity. Now, however, another plausible interpretation can be that this messaging is aimed by America for illicit responses, you know, and testing the waters to get a feel of China's game plan for the Indo-Pacific. Right? So probably America is doing it intentionally to gauge, the feeling of China, and in fact to understand its game plan for the Indo-Pacific. That how would it respond? So important developments taking place in our neighborhood. In fact, now this was the article which appeared on 26th May this year, and which is also being discussed in detail in the below mentioned video. You can always uh, visit and watch that video to get more clarity. Right? So there were three major agreements, three documents which were being signed, between PRC and America. The Shanghai Communique 1972, the Normalization Communique 79, and the 1982 Communique. Right. According to the 72 Communique, America agreed to the One China principle. Right. So that was being agreed upon in the year 1972 under Shanghai Communique. As per 1979 communique, America recognized the PRC. Getting my point? But stated, so here there is a catch. America recognized PRC, but stated that it merely acknowledges the Chinese position that there is but one China and Taiwan is part of China. It also established unofficial relations with Taiwan through this communique in the name of the people of both the countries, right? So this is how America started changing its stand post 1979 communique. That means it merely acknowledges. That means it hardly acknowledges the Chinese position on Taiwan. Correct. Now came the 1982 communique, where it assuages Chinese concern of the possibility for continued arms supply to Taiwan by the U.S. provision in the Taiwan Relations Act 1979. So America came up with the act called as Taiwan Relations Act 1979 or TRA 1979, wherein it started supplying arms and ammunition to Taiwan, right? And in this way, US developed a way to balance the recognition of PRC with the concerns of Taiwan. And this delicate balance, however, has increasingly been tested of late. Now, in the past few months, in November, December last year, American President Joe Biden has in fact has hinted about its the strategic clarity over Taiwan, and in fact, at the third time, in the month of April, May, he said that even if a military aggression is required for the independence of Taiwan, then they would not hesitate to do so. Right. So this is something which is to be kept in mind. Now, this American TRA or Taiwan Relation Act, where they agreed to supply arms for the democracy movements in Taiwan. This resulted into strategic ambiguity, which is quite visible in TRA. Because the TRA had come up in the wake of America's recognition of the PRC and the resultant termination of 1954 US Taiwan Mutual Defense Treaty. Right. Now, so this is there, and it seems that there is no clear guarantee here that the US will literally involve in a situation where China attempts to invade Taiwan short of supplying defensive weapons, right? So there is an imminent danger that what Russia is doing to Ukraine, China may do the same to Taiwan. Getting my point? So therefore, there is you know, the the clouds of war that China may also, do a military aggression over Taiwan as Russia is doing over Ukraine, right? So in this sense, there is a We have to see that how the Eurasian Atlantic theater would work upon, and the Indo-Pacific region, right? So an important article, and I strongly expect a question on this. Very important for all the students preparing for law exams, Clat, uh, UPSC, state service examination, so on and so forth. I hope you understood this. So this is the geostrategic location of Taiwan, and this is China. And Taiwan as a province of China. Now, here is again a fact which you have to keep in mind. Taiwan as a province of China is not recognized by United Nations. And here you can see the president of ROC or Taiwan, Tsai Ing-wen. Now, China continues to regard Taiwan as its province even after decades of separate governance. So Taiwan has its own separate governance. Chinese President Xi Jinping even threatened to take the island if needed. Taiwan is claimed by PRC, which refuses any diplomatic relations with countries that recognize ROC. So China has clearly said that if any country would enter into a diplomatic relation with Taiwan, then it would cut all the relations with that country, right? In this sense, it would refuse all the diplomatic relations with country that recognizes the ROC. Well, the Taiwan maintains official diplomatic relations with 13 out of 193 United Nations member states and the Holy See, though many others maintain unofficial diplomatic ties to representative offices and institutions that function as de facto embassies and consulates. Right. So this is there. So moving to the next news article on the screen. Great development took place yesterday when the Al-Qaeda chief, uh, Al-Zawahiri, was being killed in the US strike in Kabul, Afghanistan. Now, Al-Zawahiri was being believed to be 9/11 mastermind, right? So 9/11 attacks in America, which actually were the worst terror attacks in American history, and in fact, they also, destroyed the World Trade Park, right? So the 9/11 mastermind. So you all know that after the killing of Osama bin Laden, who was the chief of Al-Qaeda, it was being taken over by Al-Zawahiri. Right? Now, you would be surprised to learn that Al-Zawahiri was a surgeon. He was a surgeon in Egypt, right? A very good and well settled surgeon, medical practitioner. But then he turned to become the terrorist because of the radical revolutionary ideas. He adopted those ideas. Now, Al Zawahiri is being killed by the US strike in Kabul, and justice has been delivered, and this terrorist leader is no more, as said by the American, White House. Zawahiri's presence in the Afghan capital, that is Kabul, was a clear violation of a deal the Taliban signed with America in Doha. So, as per Doha 2022, Taliban promised and assured America that they would not, you know, uh, give the safe haven to any terrorist, including Al Zawahiri, who is the chief of Al Qaeda. And this paved the way for American US troops withdrawal from Afghanistan, right? So this is a clear violation of the Agreement 2020. It was the first known over the horizon strike by America on an Al Qaeda target in Afghanistan since American forces withdrew in the year 2021 August. We all know 9/11 attacks and how it, you know, shocked the world, killing more than 3,000 people in America. Well, Al Zawahiri took over Al Qaeda after the killing of Osama bin Laden by American special forces in Pakistan in 2011 and had a $25 million American bounty on his head, right? So, a very big development. Moving to the next news article. Well, students, we all know that the central government has started the Har Ghar Tiranga campaign in order to promote nationalism among the Indians. where they're asking to flag or hoist, the national flag over the, every person, person house should have a national flag over them, over their house. So it would promote nationalism. And in fact, this is the Tiranga, Indian national flag, was being designed by Bengali Venkaya, right, from Andhra, and it was also his birth anniversary. So you always keep this in mind. Pingali Venkaya was the person who designed the tricolor, right? A famous nationalist from Andhra, and it was his birth anniversary, right? Pingali Venkaya. So they came up with the postage stamp to mark the birth anniversary of Pingali Venkaya, right? So this is a part of the Har Ghar Tiranga campaign, and this information is very important. Going to the next news article. Well, it is about India's Antarctica activities. Students, we all know that India, the Lok Sabha has passed the India Antarctica Bill 2022, right? And we also have shot a video over the same in the past few days. Now, this article explores some aspects about the Antarctica activities in India, right? Now, before jumping into this article, let us understand what was Antarctica Bill 2022. Now, we know that the bill ensures that India's obligation as a signatory to Antarctica Treaty of 1963 is fulfilled. Right? So, a treaty was signed in the year 1963. You can see here, yeah. So, in fact, 1959, which was signed between 12 countries, right? For making the Antarctica continent a demilitarized zone. Because 1959 is also an era of Cold War, and the big nations didn't wanted it to be militarized, right? So a treaty was being signed between the 12 countries in Washington in the year 1959 to make the Antarctic continent a demilitarized zone to be preserved for scientific research only, right? So therefore, they made it very clear that Antarctica should be used for scientific research only and not any military activity, not for any military activity, right? The 12 original signatories were Argentina, as you can see, the big countries, Australia, then France, Japan, and New Zealand, South Africa, the Soviet, and UK, and the US, right? Now, however, it entered into the force in the year 1961 and has since been exceeded by many other nations, right? Now, currently, it has 54 countries, right? So, from 12 in the year 1959, today it has 54 nations as its signatories. And India became a part of this treaty or Antarctica Treaty in the year 1983, right? So, let's make it very clear. The headquarters of the Antarctica Treaty is Buenos Aires, Argentina, right? Now, what are the major provisions? What were the major provisions of the Antarctica Treaty? Now, it was to promote the freedom of scientific research, and demilitarization. It also said asked the countries, to make the continent only to use the continent only for the peaceful purposes, prohibition of military activities like the nuclear test and the disposal of radioactive waste, etc. Even neutralizing the territorial sovereignty, right? So that was also yeah, the objective of the Antarctica Treaty, right? So it put a freeze on any disputes between claimants over their territories on the continent, right? Now, so this is about the Antarctica Treaty. I hope the background is clear. Now, so this is the location, geographical location of Antarctica. As you can see, the southern pole of the planet of Earth, Mount Vinson, base camp, so on and so forth. And right. Now let us come to the Antarctica bill passed by the Lok Sabha in India, right? Indian Antarctic Bill 2022. Now, in this way, there were some obligations which were there mentioned in Antarctica Treaty, which we just discussed. So these were the obligations, right? To promote the scientific research, to use for peaceful purposes, demilitarization, etc., so on and so forth, right? Now, by this passage of the bill, uh, Indian India has kind of, fulfilled its obligations as a signatory to the Antarctica Treaty, and in fact, Antarctica Bill aims to regulate the visits and activities to Antarctica as well set ground rules for potential disputes that may arise among those present on the continent. Right? Now, the bill also provides the penal provisions for certain serious violations. We'll see what are these violations. Now, under the key provisions of the bill are: first, the private tours and expeditions to the Antarctica would be prohibited, right? Completely prohibited. No private tour or private expedition to Antarctica can take place, without the permission or written authorization by a member country, right? So, for example, any private expedition or a tour is going to for scientific exploration to Antarctica, then it should take a legal permission, that written authorization from Indian government. Now, the bill also lays out a structure for the government officials to inspect a vessel and to conduct checks of research facilities. Right? So, so whatever vessel, I mean, which is there reaching at the polar region, uh, must be properly inspected and also conduct the checks of research facilities. Right? It also directs creating a fund called as Antarctic Fund that will be used for protecting the Antarctica environment, right? So they have come up with Antarctica Fund or Antarctic Fund to promote the research, etc., and to preserve the environment of Antarctica. Very important. So this is a welcome move. The bill also extends the jurisdiction of Indian courts to Antarctica. So this is very important, right? Now it lays out the penal provisions for crimes on the continent by Indian citizens and even foreign citizens who are a part of Indian expeditions, right? Or are in the precincts of Indian research institutions. So there are three aspects. If any Indian citizen goes there and violates the provision mentioned in the Antarctica Bill or the Antarctica Treaty, then he would be held under the Indian law system, right? Indian courts. In this sense, the bill has extended the jurisdiction of the Indian courts to Antarctica. Number one. Number two, even if let's say if a foreign citizen is a part of Indian expedition, then he would also be held guilty under be booked and by the Indian courts or Indian law, or even if there is any violation of the treaty or the act, in the periphery of the Indian research station, then also it would be adjudicated by the Indian courts. Correct. This is a very welcome move and an important. Now, protecting the mineral resources. Now, it's being said that Antarctica has huge reservoir of mineral resources. It's being said that it has atomic minerals, right? Nuclear minerals, for example, uranium and thorium, etc., which can be used for a nuclear activities, right? So it asks to protect the mineral resources. It further prohibits any drilling, dredging, excavation, or collection of mineral resources, or even doing anything to identify where such mineral deposit occurs, right? So the only exception is for scientific research, right? So this sense, you can do only the scientific research, but no other mineral exploration should be carried upon. Very important. Now the next provision of this bill is protecting the native plants, right? So there is a strict prohibition on damaging native plants, right? That means flying or landing helicopters or operating vessels that should could disturb. So in this sense, you cannot introduce any foreign or an alien species, be it the flora or the fauna, right? Be it any animal or a plant which is not native to the environment of Antarctica is not allowed, strictly prohibited. Even the flying or landing the helicopters or operating vessels, which may disturb the birds and sea, is also prohibited. Using firearms that could disturb the birds and animals, again prohibited. Removing soil or any biological material native to Antarctica is prohibited, and engaging in any activity that could adversely change the habitat of birds and animals is also prohibited. Right. So very important aspect. Prohibition on introducing birds not native to Antarctica. Right. This is something which you have to look upon, that what if any bird which is not native to Antarctica is being inducted or is being introduced? Well, such introduction of animals, birds, plants, or even microscopic organisms, very important. Getting the intensity of this law, I mean, the bill which may soon become a law. Even the foreign microscopic organisms are which are not native to Antarctica are prohibited strictly. Right? And the violators can face imprisonment as well as penalties. What is the need of such law? Well, to fulfill the provisions under the Antarctica Treaty, India had been a signatory to the Antarctica Treaty since 83. And to preserve the pristine nature of the continent, and because India definitely is a signatory of the Antarctica Treaty, of which 54 members are there at present, such as the Convention of the other conventions to preserve the environment of Antarctica are Convention on the Conservation of Antarctic Marine Living Resources and the Commission for Conservation of Antarctic Marine Living. So this is one thing. Both the conventions, enjoin India to help preserve the pristine nature of the continent. I hope it is clear. So, so what are the activities of Indian researchers over Antarctica? So this is something which you have to keep in mind. Well, India also started its research station, and there are two research stations, working successfully in Antarctica. Indian research station. The first was Maitree. It was commissioned in the year 1989. Very important, Maitree. And it is there at Shir Masher Hills. The second was, just 10 years back, that is in 2012, and it was called as by the name Bharti, and it is at Larseman Hills, right? So Maitri and Bharti are the Indian research stations in Antarctica, operating in Antarctica. Now we also have the research stations in Arctic by the name Himadri, right? So Himadri is the research station of Indian government at Arctic Circle at Svalbard. And in this sense, India is among an elite group of countries with multiple research in the polar regions. Well, we know that Antarctica is the fifth largest continent, and India officially acceded to the Antarctica Treaty System in the year 1983. Very, very important. Right? So this we have discussed. This also we have discussed again, and there have been many tensions with regard to the overlapping claims over the territory. Like there was a dispute between Argentina and UK. The key reason why the treaty has been able to survive has been its ability to evolve through a number of additional conventions and other legal protocols, like conservation of marine living resources and so forth. The major international agreements of the treaty system are below: 1959 Antarctica Treaty, 72 Convention for the Conservation of Antarctic Seals, then your Convention on the Conservation of Antarctic Marine Living Resources, then 91 the Protocol on Environmental Protection to the Antarctica Treaty. Right. Well, what is the way forward to resolve these disputes and to preserve the pristine environment, or the biography of Antarctica? So, well, Antarctica Treaty has been successfully in responding to a range of challenges. Circumstances are radically different in 2020 compared to 1950. Antarctica is much more accessible, right? Partly due to technology, but also climate change, right? Oil, there is also scars of oil. We all know oil spills, etc. There is also growing speculation of China's interest in the Antarctic resources, especially the fisheries and the minerals. And China may seek to exploit the weakness in the treaty system to secure access to these resources. Right? Therefore, all of the treaty signatories, but especially those with significant stakes in continent, need to give the future of the treaty more attention. Again, the issue of a polar research vessel still needs to be addressed immediately, right? So normally many countries, including India, do not have their specialized vessels. They go with the normal ships, right? The normal vessels, correct? And this results to the spoiling or damaging the environment of Antarctica, the pristine environment of Antarctica, also spoils spills, etc. Right. So therefore, Indian government is, even the author, the Jairam Ramesh, is also saying that we should have a polar research vessel. We should have its own tools to, ice breaking tools. Correct. So it is more environmental friendly. He's saying that in fact we must purchase it from any country if we cannot develop it on our own. So very important. So we must have our own research ship with ice breaking. And so I'm talking about the polar research vessel with ice breaking and other advanced technological capabilities. But so this is still unimplemented, and this is something the gray area, right? And today, after the Himadri, which was inaugurated in 2008 as a research station in Arctic Circle, India got observer status at 8-country Arctic Council. Very, very important. Right, so this is how it is about. And let us now come to the article. Now we are clear about the background. Now try understanding the article. Well, having been left out of 1959 Antarctica, so should be very clear that Antarctica Treaty was signed in the year 1959. However, it came into force in 1963, right? So Antarctica Treaty signed in the year 1959. Originally, there were 12 members. Now, and this was the brainchild of the then Prime Minister Jawaharlal Nehru and the Secretary V.K. Krishna Menon in the year 1956, right? Where they, became the first country, in fact, in the world to, to you know, uh, to request for an item on the agenda of the 11th United Nations General Assembly meeting entitled "The Question of Antarctica." Right. So, in this sense, many of us may not be knowing this, that our erstwhile Prime Minister, in fact, the first Prime Minister Jawaharlal Nehru, with his advisor V.K. Krishna Menon, uh, the India became the first country in the world to request, an item in the agenda list of the United Nations General Assembly meeting, and the agenda was the question of Antarctica. Right, so very very important. The year 1956 itself, right, just almost around 9 years after independence. So this Nehru Menon initiative, you know, uh, uh, it was a very welcome one, and in fact, just 3 years after 56, in the year 1959, December 1st, the Antarctica Treaty was signed in Washington, D.C. But not surprisingly, since its moves at the United Nations had irked a number of countries, including Soviet, India was neither involved nor invited. Right? So now it is, ironical that the country, India, who for the first time proposed the agenda of the question of Antarctica, was not invited for Antarctica Treaty. Right? So it was signed by 12 countries, and India was not the member of Antarctica Treaty 1959. In fact, it was not invited. Well, Antarctica contains many very important minerals, especially atomic energy minerals, right? So therefore, the Antarctica Treaty, talked about demilitarization and using Antarctica landscape for peaceful usage. Well, in the morning of January 9, 1982, uh, the world was shocked with India, establishing its first Antarctic expedition called as Operation Gangotri. Right, the first research station in Antarctica was set up by the Indian government in the year 1982 when Indira Gandhi was the prime minister. And in fact, in this sense, Gangotri became the first India's first Antarctic expedition. And at the same time, in the month of April 1981, as a prelude to Gangotri or 1982, so in the month, a year prior to 1982, in 1981, a separate department, exclusive department of ocean development was being set up by the Department of Environment. Now, India was not a member of the Antarctic Treaty, and no other ASEAN country, in fact, Asian country, sorry, including China, had a presence there. But slowly and steadily, with India's successful expedition of Antarctica with Operation Gangotri in 1982, Indians quietly invaded Antarctica, as said by one of the British science magazine. And with the two expeditions successfully, right? Where we know the two expeditions. What are they? Can you name them? 1982 was Gangotri. Then you have, so this was Operation Gangotri, right? This was not the name of the research station. Research station, as we discussed, was called as Maitri in 1989, and it was a part of Operation Gangotri. Right? So Operation Gangotri was a project, was an operation, and under this operation or project, a research station called Maitri was being commissioned in the year 1989. Right. So two expeditions successfully completed within a span of 11 months. India finally becomes a member of Antarctica Treaty, in August 1983. Right? So India joined Antarctica Treaty, or it became a signatory of Antarctica Treaty in 1983, and China followed it in 1985. Right? So this since China joined the Antarctica Treaty late in 1985 because it didn't had much research for expeditions in Antarctica. Right? So today the treaty has 46 members, uh, and has a convention on marine living resources and a protocol on environmental protection as well. So we have two research stations, 1988 Maitri and and Bharti recently in 2012. So India's Antarctic activities that is consistent with its international treaty obligations. So the issue is polar research vehicle, which we have just discussed, and the research station is Himadri is there in inaugurated in 2008 over Arctic Circle, and in this way, the 5 years later, in 2013, India got observer status at the eight-country Arctic Council. So this is a very important and interesting article, highly important for all the students. I hope it's clear. Right. Now, this article, the next article is about PMLA or Prevention of Money Laundering Act. Now, although it is a repetition, we have already discussed in the previous sessions. We know, guys, that PMLA is Prevention of Money Laundering Act. Now, money laundering is the is the illegitimate conversion of illegal money or illegitimate money into a legal money, right? So illegitimate money means that money which is being earned through various spurious sources like any proceeds from terrorism, prostitution rings, drug trafficking, so on and so forth. Any revenue which is or money which the person earns through illegitimate or illicit activities, and then it tries to convert into legal money by pumping it into the banking channel, is called as money laundering, right? So this is a heinous offense as being declared by the court, right? It's as bad as terrorism. So as an act, it was passed in the year 2002, and recently it was amended in the year 2019. And the amendment has actually, in fact, has is being very is under protest, huge protest, because the bail under the PMLA has become nearly impossible because there are twin conditions of the bail as per the Amendment Act of PMLA, which says that because see, the person is always considered as innocent till the verdict is being decided, you know. So until and unless the judge do not pronounce a person as guilty or acquits him, or the person is considered as innocent, right? So this is a jurisprudence that we use, right? And because of this, the accused person is granted bail provisions, jamanat, right? Wherein you submit some amount, right? You pay some amount as a bond, and then you are being set free, and till the time when you are under trial, and you will be called upon by the court, right? So this actually, so the the chief justice, talks about the bail and not jail, right? But a reverse has happened in the Amendment Act of 2019 over PMLA, where there are two conditions which are placed over bail. The first is that in order to get a bail, if you are being accused of PMLA charges, then you have to prove your innocence in the court of law, right? So the public prosecutor, are you getting my point? So you have to prove your innocence in the court of law. Prove in the sense you should give some evidence here and there, and you should convince the public prosecutor, that you are not guilty, right? That is the first condition. The second is, once you are given bail, then you have to assure that you won't indulge in any wrongful acts outside, right? Now, these two conditions have actually literally made the PMLA or the bail provisions under PMLA impossible. At the same time, we should understand that out of the total prisoners, there are uh, uh, you know lakhs of prisoners in serving the jail sentence, or out of them, more than 80% of the prisoners are under trials, right? And the bail provision, comes as a scope of, as a ray of light to all the under trials, and in fact, 80% of them are under trials. Now, in fact, Supreme Court in recently Vijay Madangal Chaudhary versus Union of India have given a stamp of approval, to the twin conditions of bail under Section 45, Clause 1 of the PMLA 2002. Getting my point? In this sense, they reverse the presumption of innocence at the stage of bail, right? And in fact, It was also identified by the Supreme Court recently in the case of Satyendra Kumar Anthil versus CBI as being a leading factor in the perpetration of injustice in our criminal justice. So this is all about this article, and in fact, we have uh, have many sessions being shot over this video. You can always refer my previous sessions over the PMLA and the Vijay Mandalan Chaudhary versus Union of India case. Now, it was a three-judge bench decision, and we are hoping that it should be reversed. Right. So the court under the Vijay Mandal case has overruled the judgment by the divisive bench of Supreme Court in Nikesh Shah case. And in fact, in upholding 45 clause 1 of PMLA, the court has made the twin conditions for the grant of bail constitutionally valid in the name of national security related expediency. Now, the thing is that PMLA has been misused time and again by the agencies of the government, especially the ED, Enforcement Directorate, right? And today, these days, ED may enter into your houses, are saying that it is a it is a cognizable offense and something where no arrest warrant is required, and without issuing any arrest warrant, it can check your belongings and even arrest you, right? So ED is misusing, Enforcement Directorate is because in this vendetta politics, ED is being used by the government to go ahead with this vendetta or vendetta politics. As you can recently see, the Sanjay Raut, who was the member of the Shiv Sena, he is being detained by Enforcement Directorate. Getting my point? So when the bail provision has been has become nearly impossible, so there is would be jail would become the rule, while bail, ideally the jail becomes the rule. I mean, it is now trite to say that under such stringent conditions, even after the Vijay Matilal case, jail has become the rule, while bail is the exception, right? So we should have bail and not jail, but then it is going against that. So we hope that it should be overturned in the coming time. So in Nikesh Taratan Shah or Nikesh Shah case 2018, the court differentiated between the wordings of Section 20 Clause 8 of TADA and Section 45 Clause 1 in two important regards. That Section 20 Clause A of TADA, right? TADA is terrorist activities, apply to most heinous offences, and that the previously unamended Section 45 Clause 1 under challenge in Nikesh Shah case did not pertain to an offence under the PMLA Act, but only to a predatory offence listed in Schedule A. Right? The Supreme Court, in this sense, held the 45 Clause 1, which talks about the twin conditions of bail, to be unconstitutional and violative of Article 14, 21 of the Constitution, and struck it down. So, in this sense, the 2018 case of Nikesh Shah versus Union of India was a very welcome step by the Apex Court, where it declared Section 45 Clause 1, which talks about the twin conditions of bail and makes bail nearly impossible, to be unconstitutional and violative of Article 14 and 21, right? So it struck it down. But again, the Vijay Mandal Chaudhary versus Union of India overturned the judgment of Nikesh Shah, and in this sense, it has upheld the twin condition for the grant of bail as constitutionally valid in the name of national security expediency, right? So this is a dangerous precedent, and something which has to be looked upon. An important article and strongly expected question on the PMLA and the Vijay Madalan Chaudhary case. I hope it is clear. Well, the next news on the screen from the world of sports. Well, yesterday we shot a video over the Commonwealth Games 2022, and I explained in a very lucid sense the details about the Commonwealth Games, which are being held in Birmingham in England. And for the first time, India has made history in the sense that India has got its first ever lawn bowls gold, right? So this is a sporting event in Commonwealth Games, lawn bowls, and India has got its first ever gold in lawn bowls sporting event, and the Indian squad comprised of Lovely, Pinky, Nayan Moni, and Rupa Rani overcame the South Africans' challenge in the gold medal contest. Right, so very very important development. You know, and this is all about the lawn balls gold. Right, so this is the video link, and you can always see this video. If you can watch out, you'll find it, so you can just do this. Right, so that's all for today. I hope you enjoyed the session. Wish you all the best. See you in the next class. Before I leave, if I may play the video, it would be great, but I guess all right, so yeah, it's there, so I'll just play this video. I hope you can just watch it, and it would be helpful for all the students. So this is how the lawn ball is being played, and India has clinched its first ever gold medal, at Commonwealth Games 2022 for lawn ball, right? So this is how you see the lawn ball is being played, right, on the screen. So it's played by hand, and the participants you can see here. So, and they measure that's how where the ball went. Looks appears as if goal. Now it would give a thrust to this sporting event in India, and we are hopeful that we will come up with more medals in the coming future, right? I hope you enjoyed the session. You can keep on watching this. That's all from my side. Wish you all the best. Good day. Goodbye. God bless.